So in this next tutorial, I'll show you how to create and draw a program in Maestro CNC. This is your program down here. So there's a few ways you can go about this. If you want to make something completely from scratch, you'll want to go up here and click Project. That'll open up this blank menu. First of all, you want to set the initial perimeter sizes of your workpiece. So let's say I want to make a shelf that is 23¼ inches deep by 32 inches long. And here, it's best to be as exact as you can with your actual thickness. So I will typically use a dial caliper and get a good number for the thickness of the plywood that I'm cutting out of. But we'll just leave it at 0.73 for right now. And then you simply hit, well, you can also name your piece up here. We'll change it to Test. Then you click Apply. And that'll bring you up your piece. Now, you also have those same dimensions over here. And any change that you make, you have to hit Apply for it to actually register. So, up here, you have Operations. Now, you don't have to draw anything for this. Just making your piece allows you to do this. You can go to Perimeter Routing. Once you click that, it'll open up this menu that has all of the unedited settings for your tool. First of all, you want to select your tool. Clicking on this drop-down menu, we have all of our tools that are programmed in. At the moment, for perimeters, I've been using the 3/8 compression bit. So you can set that, and you can see that automatically populates the width of your tool. Obviously, here you have your depth. Now you can set it to 0.73, your thickness, or you can put in DZ1, which is convenient because if you're reusing this program and then just changing the sizes, if you want to change your thickness across different pieces, you don't have to go in and change the depth for your perimeter routing. It'll just be whatever this variable is. So here you have your feed rate. And this is usually automatically populating with your tool. Now if you go down to Strategy, generically it doesn't populate anything. What's important to you is you'll want to choose bidirectional, and this is what's going to allow you to make your cuts in multiple passes instead of just doing the full depth at once. So you want to set to bidirectional, click Enable Multiple Passes, and then you can set how deep you're going to be going on each one of those passes. So for a 3/4 inch deep thing, I will usually do a 1/4 inch. This stuff you normally don't have to worry about. You go down here to Machine Data, and this, for the purposes that I've been using it, will allow your brush casing to come down over your drill bit and will contain the dust. Now in a further video I will show all of the settings that actually allow that to happen correctly. But this main one here is you want to select this so that it will actually read the selection here. You'll see that these go grayed out when it's unselected. You want to select that. Once you've done all of that, you can come up here and you can hit apply. And you'll see there that it is applied the toolpath of your perimeter routing. And it shows up here in your list of operations. If you want to see or change the settings of that operation, you will simply click on this and it will reopen this menu. If we go back to our piece here, this menu will again be the piece dimensions. Now, let's say we want to put some kind of dado in this piece. You want to first go up here and click draw. And then you're going to want to do line. Now, Maestro does this kind of strangely. You have to work with coordinates. So as I'm moving around, the XY coordinates are changing. So I think it's best to simply type your coordinates in. Now, 0, 0 is down here where you can see the X, Y, and Z axis. So if I want it to start on the far left, and let's say I want it to be a ½ inch from the bottom, I'll type in 0.5 and hit enter. Now that's where my line's beginning from. And it's moving around, and I'm supposed to set the coordinates for the next point in the line. Now, a nice thing that you can do, this is again useful for if you're going to be reusing this same program for a bunch of different pieces. You can just type in dx1, and that will set it to whatever this dx1 variable is. And then to cycle to the next coordinate, you hit tab, and now you can type in where you want the y coordinate to be at the other end of this line. So I'll do 0.5. Click enter, and now we have that line. And it keeps me on the line function, so I could do 100 more lines. And if you just want to freehand it, you can. To get out of that, you'll press escape, and I'll do Control Z to get rid of that last line. Now we have this line, and this arrow tells us where the starting point of that line is. Having some focusing problems. Okay. So, if you want to actually assign an operation to that, we'll go to operations again, and you want to click routing. Well, it's actually best to first select the line by clicking on it, and if you click on that and you have multiple lines that you want to assign the same operation to, you can click that and then hold the shift key and select multiple lines. Then you will click routing in operations, and the difference here, we'll assign the 0.375 inch cutter. Well, we could actually still use our 3/8 compression here. And it's good to keep using the same tools if you can, just for efficiency's sake, because while the machine is running, it will have to stop what it's doing and go retrieve another tool. But if you just keep the same tool in there, you can do things a little bit faster. So, all these settings are the same. You still have your bidirectional option. You still are going to want to fill in your machine data. Still have your depth. You can name this routing, so I could call it dado. But you see here that we have these options now. This is choosing whether or not your routing will happen on the center of the line, to the left of it, or to the right of it. And your reference point for that is this arrow. So if I want the bottom of my dado to be a ½ inch up from the bottom of the piece, I will select left compensation, because it'll be to the left of this arrow. I'll select left compensation. For now, we'll just apply that. Oh, my depth is 0. My apply button is grayed out here, and I believe that is because I did not properly select. So let me cancel this. I'll select my line, press routing. There we go. So I've selected my tool, and now the apply button is no longer grayed out. I'll select left compensation again. I'll set it at 0.25, a ¼ inch depth. And you generally don't need to fill these feed rates in. That is automatically filled in internally by what you have your tool settings at. So I'll hit apply. And so now we can see the path of the routing here. Now let's say I have many of these dados, which I will show right now you can actually create. If you do a highlight box over this entire line, it's selected. I'll show a few good tools here. So we have the move function. I can select that, and it's first going to want me to select a reference point from which I'm moving. So I can just select the end of this line. And anytime you're drawing in this, you can go up here to this drop down and select the type of point that you want to snap to. So it can be an intersection, a midpoint, a quadrant of a circle. We'll select endpoint, and that will automatically snap to the nearest endpoint. It can snap to this endpoint as well. So I'll make that my reference point, and then from there, my coordinates reset to 0, 0. I can type in how far I want this line to move in the X or Y direction. So I can say that I don't want it to move in the X, 0, tab, and I can say I want it to move 6 inches up. Press enter, and there you have it. It is now 6 inches up from its original point. We can check this using linear dimensioning. You want to click that, and then again you can use any of these. We'll do intersection. Now I'm snapping to the intersection of this perimeter line and the line that I created. And now you can just freehand dimension, or you can dimension from another intersection. Or this is a useful one for if there isn't an intersection but you just want to go to the edge. You can select perpendicular, and that will just measure it to the nearest perpendicular line. So even if there wasn't a corner here, I could just measure to the nearest perpendicular. that's very useful. You can select the line, and you can do a copy function by simply pressing Control-C, and then it will again ask you to select an origin point from which you're copying. I'll select this intersection. That goes away. And then you can press Control-V and place this anywhere. So I'll switch to perpendicular here. Oh, well, that doesn't work very well, but you can place it. Another very useful thing, you can highlight this. You can click repetitions, rectangular, and here you can basically make an array of these things. You can set how many you want in the X direction. I'll say 0, and it goes red because, well, oh yeah, you have to keep it at 1. And that'll just, if we hit apply right now, nothing would happen. It would just be the same one line. But let's say we want 3 of them total, moving upward. And we want them to be, let's say, 2 inches apart. You can select this if you want it to go into multiple directions. So I could select both of these, so then I would have I have 2 extra lines above it and 2 extra lines below it. Hit apply. Now these are all the same line and the same operation, separated by the distance that I put in. And since we didn't select, we just kept the X at 1, it didn't do anything in the X, but I could do 2 in the X and have them be 3 inches apart. Well, let's make it dx1. No, you can't use the variable there. We'll make it 32 plus 3 for 35. We can apply that. And now again, I have this operation out here, but it's obviously off the piece. And you don't simply have to do lines, you also have your rectangle. If you just generically place it, you just generically click it, you will select your coordinates for your starting point and then coordinates for your opposite corner. Then you have your circle, or your arc of different origins, different ways to do a circle. I like to do circle by radius. You just select, and then you input your radius. Let's say it's 10 inches. Big circle. And now, as you can see, since I've added all these operations with these dado lines, my list of operations here is populated more. And you can click on any of these and their data will show up over here on the right. You can select multiple of them by holding down the Shift key. It'll be difficult for me to double hand this right now, but if you held down the Shift key, you can select multiple at once. And if you want to change something about all of their data at once, well, here, I'll put the phone down for a moment and Now right now, it's only showing the data for the first one that I selected, but if you go over here, you have multiple selected, you can hit this button, Properties, and these all have the same data, so it looks the same, but if they didn't, for instance, if one of them was a different tool, this would appear blank. And you could change all of them to the same tool. When they're all selected like this and you hit Properties, the changes you make here are going to be applied to every one of them. And another thing that you can do in this order of operations, for best practice, I like to have all of my internal piece operations happening first and then the perimeter cutout to happen last. So if you select one of these, you can use these arrows to move it up or down in the order of operations. Things down at the bottom will happen last. Once you're done, simply go up here. You want to save as a project, and you will select where your file goes, and it will be whatever you name it, .pgmx. And from there, you can open Maestro Active like in the previous video, load your program, and it will operate as such. Now let's say you've made a bunch of different programs, a bunch of different pieces, and you want to nest them together. Go up to your project tab here and hit, you have to do the drop down menu and hit nesting. Do I want to save this current project before closing it? No, I do not. Well, that does remind me, if you want to, say, take this program and then not have to redo a bunch of things but just change one thing and make a new piece, you'll save this as one file, and then after that you can start making changes, change the name and everything, and then save as for a new project. A lot of the order can be different for different programs on whether or not you should save as first or last. It technically doesn't matter, but nothing is actually going to be saved until you just press the generic save button rather than dropping down and saving as. So let's say I'm just making a bunch of different rectangles of different sizes. I would make the first one, save it as piece 1. Then I would make all my changes without pressing save. But once all my changes are done for the new piece, then I would hit save as for a new project. And I'll show nesting in the next video.